Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. I'm so glad you're here with me today. Before we get started, please click the like button if you enjoy learning English with me, and subscribe so you won't miss any of my future lessons. Your support means a lot. It helps this community grow and lets me keep sharing tips that are simple and effective for learners like you. Today, I'm going to share my personal journey of moving from an A2 level to a B1 level in English and how I stayed motivated through all the ups and downs. Let's get started. Chapter 1, My Journey from A2 to B1 and How I Started. When I first started learning English, I was at an A2 level. This means I could understand some simple sentences and have basic conversations. I could say things like, I like apples, or I went to the market yesterday, but I could not explain my thoughts clearly. Sometimes, when people spoke quickly, I felt lost. I would catch one or two words, but I didn't understand the whole meaning. It was like watching a movie without subtitles. You see the pictures, but you don't know the full story. At that time, I often asked myself, how can I go from A2 to B1? I knew that B1 level means I can talk about many topics in English, understand more difficult grammar, and express my ideas more clearly. I wanted to get there, but I also knew it would take time and effort. Step 1. Understanding where I am. The first thing I did was understand my current level. I didn't want to just guess. I wanted to know exactly what I could do in English and what I could not do yet. I took an online test to check my level. The results told me that I was A2. It also gave me a list of things I needed to improve: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. Knowing my weak points helped me create a learning plan. Step 2. Setting a clear goal. I set a very clear goal. I will reach B1 level in 6 months. This was not just a dream. It was a goal with a time limit. I think having a time limit is important because it makes you work harder. If you say, I will improve my English someday, that someday might never come. But if you say, I will improve in 6 months, you feel more serious. I also wrote my goal down and put it on my desk. Every day, when I sat down, I saw my goal. It reminded me why I was studying. It's easy to forget why you are working hard, but a small reminder can make a big difference. Step 3. Making a daily study plan. To move from A2 to B1, I needed to study regularly. I decided to study for at least 1 hour every day. My plan looked like this: 20 minutes listening practice, 20 minutes speaking practice, 10 minutes reading, 10 minutes writing. It may sound small, but doing it every day is very powerful. Even if you are busy, 1 hour is possible if you plan your time well. Some days I studied in the morning, other days in the evening, but I never missed a day. Step 4. Listening practice. Listening was my biggest weakness. At A2 level, it's hard to understand native speakers because they speak quickly and use many words we don't know. But I learned that listening is the foundation of language learning. If I cannot understand others, it's hard to answer and continue the conversation. So I started listening to English every day. I used YouTube videos, podcasts, and movies. At first, I could understand only 40 to 50%, but I didn't stop. I listened to the same audio many times. Repetition helped me a lot. For example, I would listen to one short video 5 times. The first time, I understood very little. The second time, I caught more words. By the 5th time, I could understand almost everything. Step 5. Speaking practice. Speaking was scary for me at first. I worried about making mistakes, so I sometimes stayed quiet. But I learned that making mistakes is normal and important. If you don't make mistakes, you are not learning. So I decided to speak more, even if my grammar was not perfect. I joined an online language exchange where I could talk with native speakers for 15 to 20 minutes. I also practiced speaking alone. For example, I would look at an object in my room and describe it in English. This is my cup. It is white. I bought it in the supermarket last year. This simple exercise helped me build confidence. Step 6. Reading practice. Reading helped me learn new vocabulary. I read short articles, stories, and news for learners. I didn't try to understand every single word. If I didn't know a word, I first tried to guess the meaning from the sentence. Only if I still didn't understand would I check the dictionary. This way, I stayed focused on the meaning, not just the words. Step 7. Writing practice. Writing helped me organize my thoughts in English. Every day, I wrote a short paragraph about my day, my feelings, or my plans. For example, today, I went to the park. It was sunny, and I saw many people jogging. I felt happy because the weather was nice. This simple writing helped me remember new words and grammar. Step 8. Keeping motivation. At first, I was very motivated, but after a few weeks, I started to feel tired. I realized that motivation is not always strong. Sometimes it disappears. So I had to find ways to keep it alive. Here are some things that worked for me. 1. Tracking progress. I kept a notebook of new words I learned and things I could say now that I couldn't say before. 2. Rewarding myself. After a week of daily study, I gave myself a small reward, like watching a favorite movie or eating my favorite snack. 3. Joining a community. I found online groups where people shared their learning progress. Seeing others work hard made me want to work harder. Step 9. Facing difficult days. Some days I really didn't want to study. Maybe I was tired or busy, but I remembered my goal, and I told myself, just do 10 minutes. Once I started, I often continued for the full hour. The hardest part is starting. If you start small, you can build the habit. Step 10. Results. After 6 months. After 6 months, I took another test. This time, I reached B1 level. My listening improved a lot. I could understand podcasts made for learners and even some made for native speakers. My speaking was more confident, and I could talk for longer without stopping. My reading and writing were better too. But the most important thing I learned was this: consistency is more important than motivation. Motivation comes and goes, but if you build a habit of daily practice, you will improve, even on days you feel lazy. In the next chapter, I will share the exact listening and speaking techniques that help me move faster from A2 to B1. Chapter 2. How I improved my listening and speaking skills. When I was at the A2 level, listening and speaking were the two hardest skills for me. I could read and write better than I could understand people. But when I heard native speakers talk, they spoke so fast that my brain froze. I could only catch a few words, and by the time I understood one sentence, they were already on the next. Speaking was just as hard. I wanted to say more, but I couldn't find the right words quickly. I also worried about grammar mistakes and pronunciation. It felt like my brain was moving slowly while English speakers were running a race. In this chapter, I will share exactly what I did to improve both my listening and speaking, and how these two skills helped me move from A2 to B1. Listening comes first. Before I could speak better, I needed to listen better. I realized something important. Speaking is easier if you have heard a lot of English before. The more I listened, the more I understood how sentences were built, how words sounded together, and how intonation worked. So I made listening part of my daily life. My goal was to listen to at least 20 to 30 minutes of English every day. Sometimes I listened more, but I never listened less. Step 1. Choose the right listening materials. At first, I made a mistake. I tried to listen to movies and TV shows made for native speakers. They were fun, but I could understand very little, and it was frustrating. So I changed my approach. I started with podcasts for English learners, YouTube channels with slow and clear English, audiobooks of graded readers, books for learners. These materials were easier to understand, so I could feel progress faster. When I understood most of what I listened to, I felt motivated to keep going. Step 2. The repeat and understand method. One thing that really worked for me was repetition. Instead of listening to something new every day, I often listen to the same short audio many times. For example, 1. First listening. I tried to understand the general meaning. 2. Second listening. I focused on catching more details. 3. Third listening. I paused and repeated some sentences out loud. This method helped me understand not just the words, but also the natural rhythm of English. Step 3. Shadowing practice. Shadowing is a powerful technique I discovered. It means listening to a sentence and speaking at almost the same time as the speaker. I started with short sentences and slow audio. For example, I listened to a podcast sentence like, "I like going for a walk in the morning." I repeated it immediately, trying to match the speaker's speed and pronunciation. At first, it was difficult because my mouth couldn't move that fast. But after a few weeks, I noticed my pronunciation and speed improved a lot. Step 4. Mixing listening into my day. To make sure I listened a lot, I used background listening. This means I played English audio while doing other things, like cooking or cleaning. I didn't understand everything, but my brain got used to the sound of English. It made real conversations feel less strange, improving my speaking skills. Once my listening improved, I started to speak more confidently. I realized that speaking well is not only about grammar. It's also about speed, fluency, and having enough words to express yourself. Step 1. Speak every day, even alone. I decided that I would speak English every day, even if I had no one to talk to. I used self-talk to practice. For example, in the morning, I would say, "Good morning. I woke up at 7 today. I'm going to have some bread and coffee for breakfast. After breakfast, I will take the bus to work." This may sound simple, but speaking daily, even alone, helped my mouth get used to English. Step 2. Language exchange partners. I also joined an online language exchange platform. I talked to native speakers or advanced learners for 15 to 30 minutes. We spoke in English for half the time and in their language for the other half. In the beginning, I made a lot of mistakes and felt nervous, but my partners were friendly and patient. They corrected me gently and gave me new words to use. After each conversation, I wrote down 3 to 5 new phrases I learned and tried to use them next time. Step 3. Practice with topics. I noticed that in real life, we often talk about the same topics again and again: hobbies, work, travel, food, weather, and so on. So I prepared answers for these topics. For example, topic: hobbies. My favorite type of book is travel stories because they inspire me to explore the world. By preparing my answers, I felt more ready to speak and I didn't have to stop and think for too long. Step 4. Record and listen to myself. Recording my voice felt strange at first, but it was very useful. I would record myself speaking about a topic for 1-2 minutes, then listen to it. I could hear my pronunciation problems and long pauses. Over time, my recording sounded more natural. Step 5. Copy native speakers. Another thing that helped me was imitation. I chose short videos of native speakers and copied them word for word, trying to match their accent, intonation, and speed. I didn't try to speak like them all the time, but it helped me sound more natural and confident. Balancing listening and speaking. I learned that listening and speaking are connected. If I listen a lot, my speaking improves because I know how sentences should sound. If I speak a lot, I notice my listening gets easier because I am used to the words I hear. So I balance them. Listening, 20 to 30 minutes daily. Speaking, 15 to 20 minutes daily. Some days I combine them. For example, I would listen to a short audio, then try to retell the story in my own words. How this changed my English. After a few months of this routine, I saw big changes. I could follow English conversations more easily. I stopped translating in my head and started thinking in English. I could answer questions more quickly and with less hesitation. My confidence grew, and I started enjoying conversations instead of fearing them. In the next chapter, I will share how I learned vocabulary and grammar in a natural way so I could use them in real conversations without overthinking. Chapter 3: Building my vocabulary and grammar naturally. When I was at the A2 level, I sometimes felt stuck. I could speak a little, but my sentences were short, and I repeated the same words again and again. For example, I used good for almost everything. Good food, good weather, good movie, because I didn't know other words. My grammar also caused problems. I knew the rules, but when I tried to speak, I often forgot them. Sometimes I used the wrong tense or forgot the S in the third person. In this chapter, I'll share how I built my vocabulary and grammar without feeling bored or overwhelmed, and how I made them part of my everyday English. Step 1. Learn words in groups, not alone. Before, I learned vocabulary from long word lists. I memorized 20 to 30 new words in one day, but after a week, I forgot most of them. I realized that learning words alone, without context, is not effective. So I started learning words in groups or topics. For example, instead of just learning the word delicious, I learned other food-related words at the same time. Spicy, sour, bitter, sweet, fresh, salty. Because they were connected, it was easier to remember them. And when I spoke about food, I could use more than just good. I could say, this soup is spicy but very tasty. The cake is sweet and fresh. Step 2. Learn phrases. Learning single words wasn't enough. Native speakers don't only use words, they use phrases. For example, instead of big problem, they say a huge problem or a serious problem. Instead of very happy, they might say over the moon. So I began writing down whole phrases from podcasts, videos, or books. For example, I learned, I'm looking forward to. It's up to you. I haven't decided yet. When I learned phrases, I didn't need to think too much about grammar. The phrase was already correct, and I could use it immediately. Step 3. Use new words immediately. I had a new rule for myself. If I learned a new word or phrase today, I had to use it in a sentence today. This could be in self-talk, writing, or a conversation. For example, if I learned reliable, I would try to say, my friend is very reliable. He always keeps his promises. Using the word quickly helped me remember it better than just writing it in my notebook. Here, step 4. Create a personal vocabulary notebook. I started a small vocabulary notebook. I didn't write every word I saw, only the ones I thought I would use often. My notebook had 3 columns. 1, the word or phrase. 2, the meaning in English or my language. 3, an example sentence. I reviewed this notebook every night for 5 to 10 minutes. I also marked the words I had already used in real conversations. Seeing my progress made me feel proud. Improving grammar without pain. Grammar was another challenge for me. At A2 level, I knew many rules, but they didn't always come out correctly when I spoke. I needed a way to make grammar feel natural, not like a math problem. Step 1. Focus on common grammar. First, I stopped trying to learn every grammar rule. Instead, I focused on the grammar I used most in daily life. Present simple, I go, you work. Present continuous, I'm going, you're working. Past simple, I went, you worked. Future with will and going to. Comparatives and superlatives. Bigger, the biggest. Once I mastered these, I could already say many things clearly. Step 2. Learn grammar through examples. Instead of only reading rules, I learned grammar from examples in books and podcasts. For example, instead of memorizing present perfect equals have, has, past participle, I read examples. I have just finished my homework. She has lived here for 3 years. After seeing many examples, I began to feel how the tense works without thinking too much. Step 3. Correct myself gently. When I spoke, I sometimes noticed my mistakes right away. For example, I might say, yesterday I go to the park. Oh, sorry, went to the park. Correcting myself gently helped me learn without feeling embarrassed. Over time, I made fewer mistakes. Step 4. Practice grammar. While speaking, I realized grammar practice didn't have to be boring exercises. I could practice it while speaking. For example, to practice past tense, I told a short story about what I did yesterday. To practice future tense, I talked about my plans for the weekend. This way, I learned to use grammar naturally, not just on paper. Combining vocabulary and grammar, I discovered that vocabulary and grammar are like two friends. They work better together. For example, if I learned the phrase, "I'm used to," I also learned the grammar that follows it. I'm used to waking up early. I'm used to drinking tea every morning. When I learned them together, I didn't have to think too much later. Making learning fun. One reason I stayed motivated was because I made vocabulary and grammar practice enjoyable. Here's what I did. 1. Use English for my hobbies. I love cooking, so I watched cooking videos in English and wrote down new words like stir, chop, and boil. Because I cared about the topic, I remembered them easily. 2. Play vocabulary games. Sometimes I played online games like word matching or fill in the blank. These small games felt like a break, but I was still learning. Tell stories. I practiced new words and grammar by telling short stories. For example, if I learned suddenly, I might say, "I was walking to school when suddenly it started raining." Stories help me use language in a more creative way. Tracking my progress. I believe that progress keeps motivation alive. Every month, I checked how many new words I could use easily and how much my grammar improved. I did this by recording myself speaking for 2 to 3 minutes and comparing it to last month's recording. Reading my old writing to see if I made fewer mistakes. When I noticed progress, even small progress, I felt excited to keep going. The results. After several months of this method, my vocabulary became richer. I could talk about more topics, and I didn't need to use the same words all the time. My grammar mistakes didn't disappear completely, but I made fewer of them, and I could correct myself quickly. Now, when I speak, my sentences are longer, clearer, and more natural. I still learn new words every week, but I'm not afraid of forgetting them because I know how to use them in my life. In the next chapter, I'll talk about how I stayed motivated on difficult days and how I avoided giving up when learning felt slow. That's the secret that kept me moving from A2 to B1 without losing my energy. Chapter 4. Staying motivated and overcoming frustration. When I was learning English, I had good days and bad days. On the good days, I felt confident and proud. I could understand more, and speaking felt easier. But on the bad days, I felt frustrated. I forgot words I learned last week. I made the same grammar mistakes again and again. Sometimes I even thought, maybe I'm not good at languages. Maybe I should stop. If you have ever felt this way, you are not alone. Every learner has these moments. In this chapter, I will share how I stayed motivated and how I pushed through the hard times without giving up. 1. Accept that progress is not always fast. At first, I wanted quick results. I thought that if I studied hard for 3 months, I could speak like a native speaker. But soon, I learned that language learning is more like growing a tree than cooking instant noodles. It takes time, and you don't always see the results immediately. I remember studying every day for a month and feeling like I wasn't improving. But when I looked back 6 months later, I realized I could understand more and speak with less hesitation. Now, when I feel progress is slow, I tell myself, it's okay, I'm growing, even if I can't see it today. 2. Celebrate small wins. One way I kept my motivation high was by celebrating small wins. These were little signs that I was improving. Understanding a joke in English for the first time, watching a YouTube video without subtitles and understanding most of it, ordering coffee in English without mistakes. Every time something like this happened, I wrote it in my notebook. I called it my English Success Journal. Reading it on difficult days reminded me that I was moving forward. 3. Mix serious study with fun. If I only studied from textbooks, I would get bored, so I made sure to mix serious study with fun activities. For example, Monday, grammar practice for 20 minutes, then watch a comedy show in English. Tuesday, learn 10 new words, then play a vocabulary game online. Wednesday, read a short English story before bed. This way, English didn't feel like a heavy job. It became part of my everyday life. 4. Use the 5-minute rule on lazy days. There were days when I didn't want to study at all. I was tired, busy, or just not in the mood. On those days, I used the 5-minute rule. I told myself, I will just study for 5 minutes. Most of the time after starting, I wanted to continue. Even if I only studied for 5 minutes, it was still better than nothing. This kept my habit alive. 5. Change my learning method. When I felt stuck, sometimes I felt bored because I was using the same study method for too long. For example, if I only used flashcards for vocabulary, I started to lose interest. So I switched methods, from flashcards to writing short stories, from grammar books to grammar podcasts, from watching movies to listening to songs. Changing my method refreshed my mind and made learning exciting again. Remember my why. When I felt tired or frustrated, I asked myself, why did I start learning English in the first place? For me, the reasons were, I wanted to travel and talk to people from different countries. I wanted to understand English movies and books. I wanted better opportunities in my work. Remembering these reasons gave me energy to keep going, even on hard days. Avoid comparing myself to others. At one point, I joined an online English group. Some people spoke much better than me. At first, I felt bad. I thought I'll never be as good as them. But then I realized comparing myself to others was not helping. Everyone has a different journey. Some people have more free time to study. Some have lived abroad. My only real competition was with my past self. So instead of asking, am I better than them? I asked, am I better than I was 3 months ago? Reward myself for consistency. To keep motivation high, I made a reward system for myself. For example, if I studied for 7 days in a row, I allowed myself a small treat, like a nice dessert. If I completed a big goal, like finishing an English book, I bought something I had wanted for a while. These rewards made learning feel more satisfying. Learn to rest without quitting. Sometimes I felt tired, not just physically, but mentally. On those days, I gave myself permission to rest. I might watch an English movie without taking notes or listen to an English song while lying on the sofa. Resting helped me recharge. The next day, I returned to studying with more energy. The key is rest, but don't quit. Visualize my future self. One of my favorite motivation tricks was imagining my future self speaking English confidently. I pictured myself traveling, making new friends, or giving a speech in English. This vision made me excited to study. Every time I learned a new word or improved my pronunciation, I felt one step closer to that future. Handling frustration. When progress feels slow, even with motivation strategies, frustration can still happen. Here's how I handled it. Step 1. Accept mistakes as part of learning. Before, I hated making mistakes. I felt embarrassed and afraid people would laugh. But I realized mistakes are actually a sign that I'm trying. If I never make mistakes, it means I'm not speaking enough. Now, when I make a mistake, I think, good, this is a chance to learn something new. Step 2. Focus on one skill at a time. When I tried to improve speaking, listening, reading, and writing all at the same time, I felt overwhelmed, so I chose one skill to focus on each month. For example, month 1, speaking practice every day. Month 2, listening to podcasts every morning. Month 3, reading short stories every night. This focus helped me see clearer progress in one area, which kept my motivation high. Step 3, remember that learning is a journey. I used to think of English as a race to the finish line, but now I see it as a long journey. There is no final end where I know everything. Even native speakers learn new words all the time. This idea made me more relaxed. I didn't have to finish English. I just had to keep enjoying the process. My motivation toolbox. After years of learning, I created my own motivation toolbox, a list of things I do when I feel my energy going down. 1. Watch my favorite English YouTuber. 2. Listen to a song I love in English and sing along. 3. Talk to a friend who also learns English. 4. Read my English success journal. 5. Change my learning method for a week. This toolbox always helps me get back on track. The result of staying motivated. Looking back, I realized that motivation is like a fire. It can burn brightly, but it also needs fuel. My fuel was small wins, fun activities, rewards, and a clear reason for learning. Now at the B1 level, I still use these strategies. There are still difficult days, but they no longer stop me. I know how to keep going, even when progress feels slow. Thank you so much for joining me today and walking through these chapters with me. I know learning English can sometimes feel like a long road, but remember, you've already taken one of the most important steps. You showed up, you listened, and you're learning something new today. That's progress. I hope the tips, stories, and examples I've shared will not only guide you, but also inspire you to keep going, even when things feel difficult. Your journey is unique, and every small step you take brings you closer to the confident English speaker you want to become. Mistakes, they're just part of the process. Slow days, they're part of the process too. What matters is that you keep moving forward, even if it's only one word, one sentence, or one 5-minute study session at a time. If you enjoyed this episode and found it helpful, please take a moment to click the like button. It really supports the channel and helps more learners like you discover these lessons. And if you haven't already, subscribe so you don't miss the upcoming chapters and other tips I'll be sharing to help you grow your skills faster. Remember, English learning is not a race. It's a journey. Keep your goals in mind, celebrate your progress, and never give up. You are capable of so much more than you think. And with steady effort, you will surprise yourself with how far you can go. So stay motivated, keep practicing, and I'll see you in the next episode. Let's keep learning, growing, and rising with English together.